So you got a poinsettia and you're worried you're going to kill it. Let's talk about how to take care of your beautiful poinsettia and keep it beautiful throughout the season. First things first, you want to make sure that you start with a healthy plant. So make sure you don't see any browning on the leaves or yellowing on the leaves, and that you get a nice, full, and pretty looking plant. Next thing is temperatures. Poinsettias actually like a temperature between 60 and 80 degrees, so kind of like what most people like. So don't let them get exposed to any type of cold air, and also keep them away from heating vents that are blowing right onto them. Okay, next let's talk about drainage, because poinsettias need to have really good drainage. So if yours comes in a foil wrap like this, make sure you poke some holes in it and stick it down inside of a saucer or something to keep your house clean. And when you do go to water your poinsettias, make sure you just use tap water. Don't use ice cubes because they don't like cold temperatures. And then make sure you keep them pretty uniformly moist. You don't want them to be soggy wet, like sitting in a saucer full of water, but you also don't want to let them dry out too much because they'll start dropping leaves and looking really sad. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is light. And just like other houseplants, poinsettias do appreciate a brighter light, so up close to a window will help them live for longer term. However, if you are just planning on using your poinsettia for a Christmas decoration and you have a pretty spot that is farther away from windows, they'll be just fine for a few weeks in a lower light situation. So hopefully you can have the confidence this year to take great care of your poinsettias and not worry about them dying before Christmas. Make sure that you are liking and following for more tips like this.
How do I propagate my monstera? So propagating a monstera, a big guy like this, is the same as propagating any trailing plant like philodendrons, pothos, anything like that. You want to find the node and cut underneath it. I'm going to turn this big guy around. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So the nodes are just the spot on the plant where the leaf connects to the stem, and there's little nubbies, and those nubbies are where the new roots will grow. So to find a node, follow a leaf to where it attaches to the stem, and right there where there's the little nubby, that is your node. So you want to be making your cuts right underneath that. Again, I'm going to follow my leaf to my stem where it connects. This is your node. On big monsteras like this, your nodes will turn into large aerial roots. Same thing, I would cut underneath it, and this is where my new roots will grow out of. In my opinion, the easiest way to propagate is just with water propagations. So once you have all of your cuttings, you want to just stick those cuttings with the nodes in a jar of water and forget about them for probably a month or so. And then you'll see some roots. Once you have a decent amount of roots, you can go ahead and pot those up and you have a brand new plant.
Hey guys, welcome back to Planttok. Let's talk about spider mites, my least favorite creature on God's green earth. So in this video, I'm actually going to go through all of my plants that I have dealt with spider mites with. You're going to need insecticides or else a beneficial bug to kill spider mites, but I'll go through that in another video. This is what the aftermath of spider mite damage looks like. They basically just destroy your plant slowly. And alocasias are the biggest offender. So let's start there. Alocasia frydeck. Spider mites, this is probably their favorite plant, not gonna lie. If you have a frydeck, you've dealt with spider mites, I guarantee it, or else you just don't know you're dealing with them. If you're from the beginning, you remember my infamous video where I threw my alocasia frydeck off my second-story balcony because it was riddled with spider mites. Second worst offenders are my favorite category of plants, fuzzy philodendrons. Melanochrysums and varicosums pretty much have spider mites at all times. And my gloriosum has had spider mites so many times. Look at this. This is a spider mite leaf. I'm like, oh, are there spider mites on this as we speak? Next up on spider mites listed most favorite meals are textured philodendrons. This leaf, I found spider mites 2 days ago. They love getting up in these crevices. They're little crevice boys. And I'm pretty sure all of these leaves have had spider mites at some point. You can tell by the yellowing on the edges. And I was like, is that a spider mite web? Nope, that's just Cece's hair. Cece. So sometimes I have to play the game of, is it a spider mite or is it Cece's hair? Rubber trees. Spider mites love these. That's why there's no leaves on the bottom of this one. And if you're like me and you don't have space, so you have to have your plants smushed like this, sprinkle some alocasias throughout your plants because spider mites will choose an alocasia over any other plant. They just will. Just how it rolls. I hope that helped, and stay tuned for part 2 where I talk about how to get rid of spider mites.
Today I'm going to share with you how to keep you and your houseplants thriving this winter season. But first, here's the deal about winter and houseplants. Simply put, during winter months, we have less sunlight hours, and light is arguably the most important factor in houseplant care. The amount of light your plant receives will affect how often it needs watering and how it processes its nutrients. And it's not just less light. Winter also brings dry air, cooler temperature, pests. So I've created a free step-by-step guide to guide you through this winter season and keep you and your plants thriving. So head to my bio and get your free copy.
Here's what you need to know when your water propagations are ready for soil. First, wait until the roots are 2 to 4 inches long. When they are long enough, then you can transfer them to a well-draining soil mix. Once it's in the right mix, make sure that you keep the soil consistently moist. I just check with my finger, and when the top of it is a little bit dry, I know that it's ready for some water. After the first couple weeks, you can back off your watering and water as you would normally. Follow for more propagation tips.
Did you know it's super easy to care for a sansevieria, sometimes known as a snake plant or even a mother-in-law's tongue? Here are the top pro tips you should pay attention to if you want it to thrive. Number 1, make sure it receives 8 to 12 hours of moderately bright light. Next to a sunny window and not in direct light is perfect. Also make sure the soil of your sansevieria is never soggy. Look for the soil to have things in it such as pine bark, perlite, or pumice. When you water it, it should flow through freely. Water your sansevieria when the soil has completely dried out. Then give it a good drench or bottom water. And always let the water drain out, and be especially vigilant during the cooler months when the water sits around a little longer. Sansevierias are light feeders, but should be fertilized every month during the warmer months with a general purpose houseplant fertilizer at half rate. That'll keep them happy and healthy. And lastly, all that's left to do is watch them grow.
These are 5 things I would never do as someone who works with houseplants for a living. Some people will be pissed about this one. I would never plant directly in terracotta. You will never catch me taking my plants outside in direct sun for a few hours to give them a little sun to make them happy. I would not put a plant in a room with no windows. I would not water a plant from the top if the soil was extremely dry. I would never repot a plant without breaking up the root ball.
Hey plant friends, it's watering day, and if you're like me and you're a chronic underwaterer and have a hard time remembering when the last time you used fertilizer was, I have a solution. It's easy. The answer? Write it down. I started using a journal to keep track of my watering schedule, which I'm sure is not unique. I'm sure plenty of people do this, but I found that this is what works for me, and it's really easy. So what I did was I found a notebook that I really liked that I hadn't used, and I started keeping doodles of each of my plants, and I started with a table of contents and what page they're on. You can see here. Basically, I write down when I last watered, when I last fertilized, and if you want to be super extra, you can even take a picture of your plant, notating the date so you can track growth as well. But it's useful for keeping track of where I acquired a plant, if I did something different to it, like I said, when I used fertilizer. And it really helps me keep track of all my plants. So there you go. Hope this helps somebody. Have a great day.
Did you know it's super easy to care for your plants during the winter months? Take these steps if you want them to thrive. During this time, you'll start to see that your plants need less water. And if you're only watering when they need it, you'll notice a reduction in the frequency. So listen to them. You'll see changes in temperature, humidity, and lighting in your home and around your plants. Notice these differences and make the necessary adjustments so your plants can thrive. Depending on the plant, reduce or stop fertilizing your plants altogether during these cooler months, as most plants will slow down or even stop growing. That being said, if your plant continues to develop, then continue to feed them. If your plants are by a window, make sure your plants are not touching the cold glass or getting a cool draft, and keep them away from excessive heat from things like radiators, fireplaces, and heaters, which could cause damage. And here's a Monster Farm tip. Depending on your climate, try to avoid repotting during these months, unless it's completely necessary. Instead, repot them during the spring and summer to avoid causing them undue stress. See, I told you it was super easy.
Hey friends, today I thought I'd share a few houseplant tips to turn your home into your very own jungalow. First tip is if you're new to plant care, I recommend starting with a snake plant, a ZZ plant, or a pothos. All 3 of these are simple to take care of. Pothos are super simple to propagate. You just cut off a trimming, put it in water, and wait for the roots to grow. And when it comes to planters, you want to look for planters that have drainage holes so that way you can remove the water that collects from the bottom and prevent the plant from getting root rot. When it comes to larger plants like my fiddle leaf fig tree, I definitely recommend getting a self-watering planter. This is such a game changer. It has a little water meter to tell you when you need to refill it, and it regulates how much water the plant's getting at all times. I also recommend getting indoor plant food for the growing months in a spray bottle, just to spray the plant down, give it some humidity, and wipe down the leaves to make sure it's absorbing enough sunlight. I hope you all found this helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments.
If you are someone who constantly kills your houseplants, like me, this is for you. So for years I would get houseplants and they were all on a watering schedule where I would just pick a day of the week and go around and water all of them. And one of the number one causes of houseplants dying is overwater. So now instead of watering everything on the same schedule, because hello, that's not how it works, every plant is gonna have different needs. Every 3 days I will go around and I take a wooden chopstick and let me show you what I do. So I have this plant here and I'm gonna use this as an example, and what you wanna see is like a third of the way down, right here is where you want to see moisture. And if there's no moisture here and this is all dried out, you know you're ready to water. So you're gonna take your chopstick and you're gonna just poke it into the soil. This is to check to see if it needs to be watered first. Poke it all the way down to where it's hitting the bottom, give it a little twist and pull it up. And if there are no particles of soil left on the wood, you know it's time to water. Here's an example with a plant that's not quite ready to be watered yet, and this is what you want to look for. Poke it in, give it a twist, pull it back out, and you can see that there's soil sticking to the wood, which means that this isn't quite dried out enough to give it some more water. Another example here with my dwarf monstera. Stick it in, give it a twist. Definitely does not need water. I just watered this plant, so it's good to go.
This is how I treat new plants that I bring home, whether it's from a big box store or a local nursery. I'll do this to every one of them before putting them next to any of my existing plants. First, I'll go through and just check for any visible disease or pests. It's really important to make sure to check the backs of the leaves because it's not what you first see, but that a lot of the time is where the bugs will go. So I did actually find scale on this micans that I just brought home. Those little brown dots, that is what the scale is. So I'll go through and manually remove any that I can find just like this by kind of like knocking it off with my fingernail. If there are leaves that are too far gone, I'll then go through and chop those off with scissors or kind of pluck them off just by hand. This way the plant can focus its energy on producing new healthy leaves and not on trying to save the old dying ones. Next, we're going to plop this guy right into the bathtub and we're going to break out our Captain Jack's insecticidal super soap. Make sure that it is this one because there are a couple others that don't work as well. And we're just going to give the whole plant a spray down. You want to make sure to fully coat every single leaf and also get the backs of the leaves as well. You want everything to be covered. One thing we're not going to do is water our new plant. So we're going to let the insecticidal soap dry, and then once it's dry, I'm going to find a corner where it's going to quarantine for about 2 weeks away from all of our other plants.
Let's talk about shipping houseplants in the winter. Hello, my name is Amy and I own an online plant shop. I ship houseplants across the United States with free shipping. And I know some people can get a bit worried about ordering plants online because of the shipping and especially in the winter, but I want to clear some things up about that. So my houseplants are packaged and shipped from a greenhouse in Florida, and my team does an amazing job making sure that these plants are packaged so carefully. But in the wintertime, obviously with the colder temperatures, we have to take some extra precautions. So when you place an order on my website for plants in the wintertime, so from November to around April when the temperatures are cooler, I ask that you please add the winter shipping protection to your cart because with that protection, it comes a heat pack to keep the plants warm and some extra insulation depending on where the plants are headed. Now, without those heat packs and the extra insulation, if the temperatures are below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, your plants will probably get some cold damage, and cold damage is really hard to come back from. So our winter shipping protection does include our 25-day guarantee. So if your plants arrive to you and they are still cold damaged, even with the extra heat pack and insulation, we will send you replacement for free or refund you for your order. Now, there's no reason to hesitate when ordering plants, even in the winter, because we do offer that 25-day guarantee. We will make sure your plants get to you happy and healthy or send you replacements or issue you a refund if needed. It is important to note that if you are ordering in the colder months and you do not add that winter shipping protection, our 25-day guarantee will not be granted on any orders that get that cold damage. So you only get that 25-day guarantee if you add the winter shipping protection to your order. Now, the link to my online plant shop is in my bio, so go ahead and check it out. I restock plants every week around Thursday, Friday, and I add a new plant to the shop every Wednesday. Link is in my bio. Treat yourself to some new plant babes.